Today, I'd like to introduce you to an awesome salesperson who is the founder of Blissful Prospecting. He's helping a lot of companies grow their revenue through outbound emails, cold calls, and various sales strategies. And it's really an absolute pleasure to talk to someone who's also in sales. So, welcome to the show, Jason.
Dude, I'm excited to be here, man. I think I found out about you. You did an interview with Grant Cardone or someone like that, I think, and I saw a while ago, and I
Yeah,
saw that maybe a year or two ago, and then you reached out. I was like, oh, dude, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely, man. Let's
awesome.
create some content together.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks a lot for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one as well. So yeah, so I've just been interviewing a lot of salespeople and yeah, I'm always just trying to learn, as much as I can from sales people like yourself. And ultimately we can all grow together in terms of growing sales. So there we go. Okay, cool. So let's start with your background. Okay, so I'm just curious about how did you get into sales? What was the trigger point that got you into sales? I'm just curious there.
Yeah, like a lot of people in sales, got into sales by accident. So it wasn't something that I wanted to do necessarily. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a forensic scientist. So that's what I went to college for. And in college, when or you guys call it university, where you're
Mm.
at. Well, the rest of the world actually calls it university, and us here in the United States, or we do like to do things our own way.
Yeah.
Um, but I wanted to study forensic science, and I started taking some classes, and it just, it wasn't like CSI, the TV shows that I watched. So the first thing I ended up doing was working for a company that teaches you how to run a house painting business. So they hire about 3,000 college students every year, teach them how to run a business, and a big part of that is door-to-door sales, which I didn't know about actually when I joined them. So my first job at 18 was driving back and forth to my hometown, about 2.5 hours away. So from Southern Oregon over to the coast. And the very first weekend, I got five or six of my friends, and we went door to door, and we got like 120 leads. And then the next week, I got trained on how to actually do sales. So the average paint job at that time for a homeowner was like $3,000 or $4,000 US, and I sold a little over $10,000 that first weekend by myself. Closed like three deals, and after that, I was really sold on sales because I was like, "Wow, this is a way to make great money." I made $30,000 over the summer for school, and that was more than any other summer job I could have done, and it really got me hooked because the thing that I really responded to is, which I think most people respond to in sales, is it's results based. The smarter that I work, the more I will be compensated for it. And what I didn't know, because I'm an introvert, is that I would just love actually interacting with people like this and getting to build a relationship, figure out what they need, think about how they're comparing me to the competition, find out what's important to them, and really sell that. I figured out that there's this game to sales. It's not just what you see on TV where, it's the person who has the gift of gab. It's just like anything else, right? When you really start doing it, it's like, oh, there's so much here. It's not just about being a great talker. So, and it's something you can always get better at. So that's how I got into sales.
Cool. So it was you did door knocking, and you said that you
Yeah.
got 120 leads. How did you get those leads? Did the company just give it to you, or you just
Oh no, we had to get them, dude.
okay,
Yeah.
you actually just door knocked? Okay, that's a lead right there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Hey, my name's Jason. I go to school at
Jeez.
Southern Oregon University. I'm working with so and so company. I'm
Okay.
running a house painting business this summer. Was wondering if you guys are thinking about doing any painting. We're offering free estimates right now.
That
Like
was
that
that
was the
was your
script.
pitch. That was your
That
that
was the
was
pitch. And I've done that thousands of times. I mean, I've just knocked on
wow.
thousands of doors. I've taught people how to do that just thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And
Yep.
that actually was a really good thing that helped me with B2B sales too. Because
Yeah.
B2B, I don't know if you have experience doing both, but B2B sales is so much easier than B2C. I mean, you
Mm,
can research people before you reach out to them.
yep.
It's a business type of thing. So people are kind of they're a little more okay with getting a cold email or a cold call than they are someone knocking on their door at 6 p.m. when they're about to eat dinner.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I really conditioned myself to also get over rejection really quickly,
Mm,
which I think is
mm.
so important. It's just, I desensitized myself to it. I was okay with people slamming a door in my face or being rude or not wanting to talk to me. So when I went into B2B, it was just way like, really, all I got to do is call this person and they might not want to talk to me, or
Yeah.
they might say not interested to my email. I mean, that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I mean, Door knocking. I haven't done door knocking before. I do cold calling, cold emailing as well. But door knocking is another game, and I heard that when you do it, it builds a lot of character. You know, it builds a lot of character, builds that tenacity and relentlessness in yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious about our viewers and audience, you know, who want to get into sales, don't have any experience like yourself, like when you first started. Um, what was your thinking process when you got rejected at the start? You know, when you were door knocking and they were slamming the door in your face and everything, what was, you know, what was going through your head? How did you overcome that rejection? What was that little thing that you did?
Yeah. This is hard because my answer is going to be
Am I
it
going to
didn't really
quit or?
affect me much. It
Oh,
didn't really
okay.
affect me much, actually.
Hmm.
So I think a better story maybe to share is the people that I help, because most of the people that I help do deal with reluctance. I'm just one of those weirdos, I guess, I didn't really have to even think about it. To me, it was I have a business to run. I wanted so a big thing in the company was closing over $100,000 worth of paint jobs and, making 25, 30 grand. To me, that right there, this goal up here, I'm willing to go through some discomfort to hit that goal. And if all I got to do is deal with a few people slamming a door in my face every now, which honestly was maybe 1 out of 100 people were rude to me. It was
Hmm.
such a small minority of people that when I focused on the bigger thing, I just didn't even think about it. Now, for someone that does have some reluctance around that, I teach that way differently. That's something I had to learn how to teach, by the way. As a sales manager, what I was told when they trained me was that your team's biggest weakness will be your biggest strength. So what your team is not great at is going to be the stuff that comes naturally to you. So I was not good at teaching sales at first, but this was one of those things. So I think you need to do a couple things. The way I think about call reluctance is through a really simple 4-part framework, and it's called deconditioning. They use it in therapy to help you overcome or deal with negative behavior or bad habits. So the 4-part framework is identify the pattern, pinpoint the trigger, derail and replace, and then practice and make habit. So identify the pattern is when I up to that door or when I go to make cold calls, I feel really anxious. Maybe I procrastinate, whatever it might be. The pinpoint the trigger, that's where you can start to think about the narrative that you tell yourself. So what specifically happens when you decide not to pick up the phone, not to knock on that door, whatever it might be? And usually it's a story that we tell ourselves when we're cold calling. I don't know if you do this. You'll open up the person's LinkedIn profile and you're like, ooh, so and so's a VP of sales. They've been doing it for 10 years. What could they possibly, like, what could I teach them, Or so and so is not smiling in their picture. They look kind of grumpy. You do all these kind of mind games. The derail and replace is how can I either tell myself a different story or do something different when that happens? So there's a couple techniques you can use that I really like. One is to change your focus and your goal. So instead of making the goal during a cold call to land a meeting, just make the goal to start a conversation. You can't land a meeting with someone unless you start a conversation with them. So conversation over meetings. So my goal is how can I just get this person to answer the phone, and we could talk tactically what that sounds like. How do I get the person to answer the phone and just talk with me and just have a conversation with them? The other thing that I would think about too is this, it's kind of this approach of radical acceptance. It's that, hey, if you adopt this approach about life that I can really only control the decisions that I make, I cannot control the outcomes, I can only influence them, you sort of look at things a little differently. Annie Duke talks about this a lot in her book. Um, oh God, I can't even, I'm totally spacing on what the book is, but
Any
Annie
do,
Duke.
okay.
Yeah, Annie Duke has a couple of really good books. But one of the things she talks about, she used to be a professional poker player, thinking in bets. That's what it is. She talks about the difference between decisions and outcomes. And the analogy that I like to use is seatbelts. And I promise this will connect back to call reluctance here in a
Okay,
second.
yeah. Right.
So you're like, where the hell is this guy going? So with your seatbelt, it's if I decided not to wear a seatbelt for an entire year and never got in a car wreck, that would make not wearing a seatbelt a good decision, even though the outcome was okay. Vice versa is true too. Even if I decided to wear a seatbelt every single day and I got in a really bad car wreck and I got hurt, that wouldn't make wearing the seatbelt a bad decision. So decisions and outcomes are two totally different things. What we're trying to do when we do outbound is make the highest quality decision possible. So bring that into the call. All I can do is make a really good decision about how I decide to communicate with this person, or if that's even the right person to call. And then what I say in response to them. I can't make this person take a meeting with me. Statistically, you will fail more times than you succeed in sales. That's just how it works. So if you could derail some of that thinking and think, hey, I'm trying to start a conversation. I can only control the decisions. I can't control the outcome of this scenario. Let me just be willing to accept the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that this person's rude to me, and then I move on with my day. Can I live with that? Yeah, cool. And then it's practice in making that a habit is that fourth part. So identify the pattern, pinpoint that trigger, control the narrative in your head, derail it, and then practice and make that habit. And before you know it, you'll still get nervous when you make those calls, but it won't be something that paralyzes you in fear, that keeps you from taking action.
That's awesome. So really, you're just focusing on. I mean, if you're focusing too much on getting the appointment on the outcome, yeah, it adds too much pressure onto you, right? You're just too pressured to try and get that outcome. But if you just focus on just the activity, as you said, just focus on just, okay, I'm just going to have just a conversation with this guy. I don't know what's going to happen, but let's just have a conversation. I guess it just takes off that a lot of that pressure. So yeah, that's a really good analogy. Because yeah,
Yeah.
with cold calling, outbound, and everything, it's pretty nerve wracking, right? And you just want to procrastinate. So I like that little tip there. Cool.
Yeah, totally. You mentioned like that it's nerve wracking and, that kind of thing. I think that people are trying to get rid of their fear. It's actually, the goal is not to get rid of your fear of calling. It's just to take action in spite of your fear. That's all courage is,
Mm,
right? It's acting in spite of fear, taking action. That's all you're trying to do. Just take action. It's okay. I mean, I've been selling and cold calling or knocking on doors since 2008. I still get nervous when I pick up the phone and cold call someone. I just
mm.
do it anyways.
Do it
You
anyway.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of the point is to take
Mm.
action
Yep.
anyways.
Yep. Love it. Okay. So I also found you through your website, Blissful Prospecting. And
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that you help a lot of, your main focus is B2B, and you help with a lot of companies with outbound as well. So could you just tell us what is Blissful Prospecting? What do you do?
Yeah. So we do a combination of things, but really it stems around this, you know, this idea that people want to connect with strangers, right? Our biggest accounts, our biggest opportunities are typically companies that don't either know who we are or that haven't asked us to reach out to them. That's where the biggest deals that all these big companies come from.
Mm,
So how do we turn a stranger, how do we turn that into a conversation and a qualified opportunity? That's the problem that I'm really fixing for these folks. I do that through a combination of, coaching, training, playbook creation, that sort of thing. But people are coming to me for those frameworks on how to do that, and I'm helping them implement.
okay. Awesome. Okay then. And speaking of framework, I saw on your website you had the cold calling framework. Could you
Yeah.
just give us a gist of what that is? What's the cold calling framework there?
Yeah, so the framework, do you want me to actually like I can share it with you. This is going to be a
Yeah, go for
video,
it.
right? Yeah, let me do that
Mm,
and I can
okay.
actually show you.
Mm.
Um so I like to think, I don't know, are you kind of like a frameworks, kind of guy? Do you like thinking in frameworks?
Yeah. I like my structure. I don't like to just wing it. So I like to have a good structure in place, follow it.
Yep.
I do my initially there's a discovery, then you do your demo, and then
Yep.
put together the proposal, and then you go for the close. So that's pretty much a basic framework there. And in terms of cold calling, I always try and start off with the tonality, and then build that rapport, and then just quickly just ask those qualifying questions, and then try and get the outcome, which is try and book a meeting and so forth. That's pretty much my one there.
Yeah, I the reason I ask that is that I find that a lot of people in general really learn well through frameworks, and it's a great way of thinking, about things, like a
Mm,
three-part thing that I do versus a script where I'm just regurgitating something, So
mm.
let me know. I don't know if you want to make
I
this
could,
full screen or whatever. Can you see that all right?
yep, I can definitely see it.
Okay, so I think of the cold call in three parts. And what we want to do when we're cold calling, what we want to avoid is sounding like a telemarketer or any kind of automated call. So what we want to think about is what's the experience like on the receiving end of a cold call for the prospect? And we want to engineer a process that's different from that. So the way that I look at this is I break this up into three parts. So I break the call up into an intro, hook, and then a close. So let me ask you this as a prospect, what do you think's going on in the head of the people that you reach out to that they pick up their phone here and they see your number that they don't recognize and they decide to pick it up? What do you think's going through their head?
Oh, it's just another telemarketer. Who's this guy? You
Yeah.
know, yeah, there's someone I don't know. Probably someone's chasing me to pay a bill or something. I don't know this person. Complete stranger.
Yeah. Who is this? Is it going to be important? How long is it? Like, we got to get all of that out of the way right at the beginning. So, we're going to do two really important things. One, we're going to do what I call remove the surprise. And then we're going to leverage a permission based opener. So, what this does is it answers the questions that the prospect needs to get answered in that first 30, 60 seconds. Remove the surprise. Hey, David, Jason with Blissful Prospecting. Permission based opener. I know I probably caught you in the middle of something, but you got a minute for me to tell you why I'm calling? And you can let me know if you want to keep chatting. Now, what I'm doing is I'm allowing the prospect to opt in to the call. Now, what a lot of people say to that is, well, by allowing them to say no at the beginning, aren't you giving them an easy way out? You are. You totally are. But what we know about marketing is that when we give people choices, especially in sales, is that when given a choice and people feel like they have the power and they can opt in, they will say yes more times than they say no. So what I'm doing is I'm buying myself 15, 30 seconds of stage time by doing that. So remove the surprise. Hey, Jason with Blissful Prospecting, permission-based opener. I know I probably caught you in the middle of something, but do you got a minute for me to tell you why I'm calling? And you can let me know if you want to keep chatting. Sandler had sort of popularized these upfront contracts. So a permission-based opener it's essentially the same thing.
That's good.
So where people tend to make a mistake though, well, what do you think that reps do next actually? Where do you think that they make a
Oh,
mistake next?
they'll probably just start talking about themselves. We do this, and go straight into the pitch.
Elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, Josh, thank you for taking the call. I run a company called Blissful Prospecting. We do SDR training. We have 6-week programs that get really good results. We've worked with companies like Zoom and Medallia, and I was calling to see if I could schedule some time with you to talk about. That's what people do. They talk all about themselves. So what you want to do is talk about the prospect. So instead of doing an elevator pitch, what you're going to do here is what I call a priority drop. So I'm essentially going to use this priority drop statement to filter the conversation and the hook so that I'm talking about the right thing. So here's what an example of what a priority drop might sound like. And I have actually a client that I'm working with that we just developed some messaging with. I won't mention who the client is, but I'll give you a taste of like what the messaging might sound like.
Cool.
So they sell a solution into here, let's use this one. VPs of HR. So they're not a staffing company, but they have this platform that helps them hire talent. So what we know is they're working on two things. So the cold call is going to sound like this. Hey, David, Jason with so-and-so company. I know I'm catching you in the middle of something. You got a minute for me to tell you why I'm calling? You can let me know if you want to keep chatting. Person says yes. Well, hey, I'm talking to a lot of VPs of HR right now, and we're hearing a theme around two really big priorities. One is employee satisfaction and productivity. So how do we take care of existing employees to increase our workplace ranking retention? And the other thing I'm hearing is around speed and cost of hiring. So how do we improve our hiring practices to increase the speed of hiring and lower the cost of acquisition? Really curious, are either of those two things something that you're working on right now? Or are you working on something entirely different than that? So what I've done now is I've filtered that conversation so that when I go into the hook, the middle part here, I can do what's called question stacking around problems that they have. Where a lot of reps make mistakes is they just start asking, hey, do you have this problem? A lot of people I talk to are running across, they don't talk first about what the person's trying to accomplish and then ask about problems around that. So if someone said, yeah, speed of hiring is really important to us, we can't get people in fast enough. Then I can talk about problems related to that. So if I see that they're posting jobs on Indeed, I may be like, hey, I noticed you guys are posting a lot of jobs in Indeed. And one thing we hear is that, especially in the markets you're advertising and you're competing against 900 other companies for the same labor. How long is it taking right now for you guys to get people and get started after you post the jobs? What's the time to hire right now? Yeah, I can ask questions around those problems. So I'll go ahead and pause there.
Good.
That's
Mm.
how we want to structure the cold call, the first part of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it how you got that priority drop. It's like you're qualifying that question first before you go deeper with the questions. Because
Yeah.
if you don't do that, then you just, as you said, you just ask questions that just has no relevance because they just don't have that need. So you're trying to find out whether they have that need in terms of hiring and so forth. Um,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I'm
Yeah,
demonstrating business acumen too, because that's the biggest thing you have working against you as a sales professional, especially if you're a BDR or SDR, is that you probably don't have a lot of experience and you might sound kind of young also.
yeah.
So the prospect is going to not feel like they won't feel like they're talking to a peer. They're not going to want to schedule a meeting with someone that doesn't sound like a peer. So this is the way that you can demonstrate business acumen and that you know their world. I'm not
Mm.
just going to say, hey, so and so, I talk to a lot of VPs of operation and they're focused on employee productivity and then speed and cost of hiring. Which one are you focused on? That's not enough information. I need
Mm.
to give a little bit more detail to show that I talk to people like you. I know your world. I talk in your language. I know what you're working on.
Also part of building that rapport as well, because when you actually understand the customer, then they know that you understand their world. They open up and they give you more information as well. So yeah, that's really good.
Yep.
Okay, there's also another question I really want to ask you. Okay, let's say that we'll give you a parachute, we drop you into another country, right? Okay, you start from scratch. There's nothing, you don't have any leads. You got a brand new business, right? But you need to get leads with with a low budget. You don't have any money, but you have to start getting leads. What would you do right from scratch?
What am I selling?
Ah, you're you're selling pens. You're selling pens.
Pens.
Yeah. What would you do to try and okay, let's say you're selling a box of pens and you're going to companies. And what would you do?
Well, if I was selling that, I would probably just go door to door to businesses.
Yep.
Yeah,
Cool.
so I would think about who uses a lot of pens.
Mm,
So I think about the biggest office buildings, the biggest stores, the most amount of employees. So I think through a really simple framework: identify, engage, create. So identify is I need to know who I'm reaching out to. So I have a hypothesis right now that larger companies with more people, more employees that would be using these pens, those would be a better fit. So I'd come up with a couple different types of ideal client profiles I think that are going to be a good fit. So I would do that. And then I would think about, well, how did they go about buying this stuff right now and who might I be competing against? And I would think about some of the messaging. So how does this align with, some of the folks that I'd be talking to? Who's the right person to talk to about this? Probably someone in purchasing or whatever it might be. Um, and I would probably meet in person to, do I have a phone at least in the internet or?
yeah, yeah. You got the internet and you got a phone.
Okay.
So, yeah, but
Okay.
nothing fancy such as a big marketing budget and you don't have any
Yeah. Yeah.
funnels, all those type of things, right? It's just very simple. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So if I have that technology, probably what I would do is put together the list, through I just sign up for a free LinkedIn account,
Cool.
um, get like the list together,
Yep.
find out the people I need to talk to, and I would attempt to approach these people through the phone and email first. And I would figure out in that local area if I'm able to visit in person. I would pick out, 10, 20, 30, maybe big accounts where I could make things happen a lot faster in person.
Mm,
That's probably
awesome.
what I would do. Yeah.
Really good. So you just mentioned the tools that you use LinkedIn. You create a LinkedIn account and then you do your research using LinkedIn, looked at your target prospects, and then you reach out. Would you reach out using your phone or would you email them or LinkedIn
All of the
messaging?
above.
All of them
Yeah.
above. Nice.
The
Nice.
contact strategy that is super important is that you want to do a mix. You want to do multi-channel. I call it keep it simple sequencing, KISS for short, because people kind of overthink this part. I want to do a combination of email, LinkedIn, social is usually the channel of choice when it comes to social, and then so email, phone, and social.
Mm,
And then
nice.
what I want to do is reach out to a person. On a Tuesday, let's say, I'm going to do 3 touches. I'm going to do email, phone, and social all at once. And then I'm going to wait 2 days. And I'm going to bump that email with any thoughts. And I'm going to call the person. I'm going to follow that same pattern 3 weeks in a row. Different message each week. Multi-channel, super important though. Multi-channel, I need to be using at least phone and email. I can add social. It needs to be multi-touch, at least 12 to 15 touches spread out over 3 weeks. That's the strategy.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so there's also another problem that I see in sales as well, is that when you're doing a lot of high activity, so you're doing the phone calls, you're booking the meetings, you've got a lot of leads, then comes the problem of time management, where you've just got so many appointments, you've got a lot of leads, but you always have to keep prospecting, right? It's always important to keep prospecting, but how do
Yep.
you what strategy do you employ that will help you manage all these leads, as in just staying on top of it? As you said, I'm going to send out 3 touches today. But what if you're dealing with about 50 leads or 100 leads? How do you manage all of them? How do you see, okay, on Tuesday, I'm going to be talking to these guys, and, Wednesday, I'm going to be talking to these guys, and this is where I am in the pipeline. Like, what's your strategy in managing everything? What's your tool? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, it gets a lot easier when you have tools,
Yeah.
for this. So,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I'm gonna make the assumption that people have a CRM of some sort. So maybe
Mm,
it's Pipedrive or Salesforce or whatever you're using,
okay.
and then you're gonna want a different tool that works with that, and it's called the Sales Engagement Platform. So sales engagement is basically going to be like your CRM, but it's built just for the outbound, the top of funnel activity. So your sales engagement platforms are like on the enterprise side of things, that's Outreach, that's Sales Loft. Zoom Info's got a solution. For people that are maybe more SMB or mid-market, Outplay, Apollo.io. There's a bunch of these type Mailshake. There's a bunch of solutions like that, but it's totally worth it to throw down on some software. So otherwise, you're managing this activity on spreadsheets. Don't expect to get a hold of a lot of people if you just call them once or twice and email once or twice.
Yep.
That's not really how it works. We got to put in a good amount of impressions.
Yep.
I got to get in front of you, especially when it comes to larger deal sizes. I got to really get myself in front of you in order to really make a good impression and to, kind of, punch through the noise.
Yep. Love it. So you mentioned that the tools that you use to manage your leads would be Outreach, Loft, and Zoom Info. Is that right? Yep.
Yeah, Outreach, Sales Loft,
Yep.
Zoom Info's got a solution that would be really enterprise. That's like if you're running a big sales team.
Yeah. Okay.
The more SMB types like Apollo.io is probably one of my favorite tools.
Yep.
It's
Okay.
got all of this. It's got data in one place. You can get people's email addresses and phone numbers and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff.
Beautiful. Love it. Love it. Okay. All right then. So, what would be the day in the life of Jason Bay? What's your typical day like? Just curious there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just recently adopted, about 4 or 5 months ago, 4-day work week. So
Nice.
work-life balance is pretty important to me and taking care of my mental health. So I'm working Monday through Thursday typically. I'm up at 5 o'clock for an hour or so. I'm writing. So I'm writing a book right now. So
Yeah.
on Outbound, on the topic that we just talked about. So I'll spend the first hour of the day. My goal is to get 1,000 words in for that, and then typically actual work I'm starting at 7, and usually I'm trying to the first couple hours of the day get any kind of business like stuff that will really move the business forward type of stuff. So that could be big marketing strategy, partners I want to collaborate with, ways that we're restructuring our coaching programs, that kind of stuff. And then the rest of the day is mostly spent in meetings. So that's like training calls with clients, group coaching calls with the reps that I work with. And I usually work until about 4 or 5, Monday through Thursday. That's my routine usually.
Awesome. Family? You got a family, wife, kids?
Yeah, I have a wife,
Oh,
Sarah,
cool.
and a dog, Pepe. He's a little toy poodle. So
Oh,
no kids
beautiful.
yet.
No kids
Coming
yet.
soon though.
Yeah, we do. Awesome. Cool, cool. All right then. Okay, so let's say that you'll go into a time machine, press a button, and go back
Yeah.
maybe 10, 20 years. What would you say to your younger self?
Well, it would be very different for 10 or 20 years. I'm
Mhm.
30, almost about to turn 33. So 10 years ago, 23, I'm a year or two into living in Southern California. I'm a marketing director. I think what I would have told myself then is, dude, you're worth it, man. Like your skill set, everything that you're doing right now, companies will pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars to do. So right now you're being underpaid. So you need to either ask for more pay or go get another job. And don't be afraid to start your own thing. That's what I was just really, I had a lot of imposter syndrome around leaving the company and starting my own business and doing all that kind of stuff. 20 years ago, though, that I would have been 13. So 13, I would have been a freshman. No, freshman, I guess seventh, eighth grade. Yeah, at 13. So what I would have said then to myself is, dude, you got your stuff together, man. Like you're gonna do fun, good things in life. Like just have fun. Like don't take yourself too seriously. I want you to really look for ways to have fun and be really confident about who you are and what you stand for and all that other stuff. Don't worry about if people are not on board with you. That's not your problem. That's their problem. So find people that like are on board with you. That's the advice that I would give myself, 20 years ago.
Beautiful. Love it. Okay. All right then. So if people want to get in contact with you, how can they do it?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things that we have going on that you could check out. So if you're looking for free stuff, so more of what we talked about today, we got a lot of that. So
Nice.
got a podcast, we got a YouTube channel, we got I post content every day on LinkedIn for sales. So I would just go to blissfulprospecting.com. That's the hub for everything. So there's free trainings there, all kinds of stuff there. And then if you're a rep looking for help, we do have paid programs. So we have a program called Outbound Squad. It's pretty cool. You get coaching from myself. There's a community of 80 reps in there right now. It's application only, so we don't let everyone in. We want to keep the skill level high, the commitment high, that sort of thing. And then just my best, content is in that, sort of thing. And then we also work with companies too. So we have a very similar offer for Outbound Squad, but specifically for companies. So if you're looking for help with a sales team or getting everyone to prospect in a similar way that we've talked about today, that's going to be the best place to check out. But blissfulprospecting.com is going to be the hub for everything.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, Jason, I really appreciate your time today. You shared some amazing knowledge on sales, a bit about your background, and I know it's going to be really helpful for the people who are watching this. And yeah, I just really want to wish you all the best for future endeavors. And I know that I'm looking forward to more amazing things that you've got in lined up for your future as well. So thanks a lot for your time, and yeah, we'll talk soon.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on.
No worries. Cool.